So, as we all know, Boris Johnson's Brexit bill has been passed. But, as we've said before, you've got a large majority, and with that, things will go wrong very loudly, fast, and very publicly. So, just because Boris Johnson has got, shall we say, the Brexit spoils, doesn't mean he's necessarily going to, shall we say, benefit from them. So, this comes from The Guardian. And this is to Johnson, the Brexit spoils and the amnesia. The Prime Minister gloats, but victory has come at the cost of truth, the people, and his own soul. Back of the net, shouted an unidentified Tory MP as the majority of 124 for the second reading of the Brexit withdrawal agreement was declared. That got a few cheers, but not many. After all, it had not been the most open of goals. It had been too easy, a bit like watching Liverpool take on a team of under-11s, and even then, some of the under-11s had started playing for the other side. As 30 Labour MPs either voted with the government or abstained. If anything, there was a slight feeling of anticlimax in the chamber as MPs departed for the Christmas break, not to mention a sense of déjà vu. Boris Johnson has opened the debate by saying that now was the time to end the dither and the delay, rather forgetting, yet again, that few politicians had done more to prevent Brexit happening over the past 3.5 years than him. He had voted twice against Theresa May's own Brexit deal, which had been, on his own previous admissions, substantially better than his own, in order to further his own career. But that was part of a prehistory now. Consigned to oblivion, the 12th of December had marked a new year zero in British politics, one in which the world must be rewritten in the image of a new supreme leader, the once and future Wonder King. Anyone who dared to mention that either Johnson had described his own his Brexit deal as one in which no UK Prime Minister could possibly agree, or that it had actually already passed its second reading once before, was at the risk of being disappeared. The truth was sinking fast, and long before there would not be even a ripple on the surface to show how it had even existed. It is time to come together and get Brexit done, he had said. It was a time for the nation to be reinvigorated and to forget the old divisions of Leave and Remain. The downside to all this was that they were to be replaced with new divisions of losers and winners, and yet it was about time the losers just sucked it up. Boris may talk the talk on healing, but every smirk, every casual aside betrays his baser primal instincts. His first reaction is always to gloat, and he is a man entirely without humility. Anyone who challenges his sense of entitlement is to be crushed. Yes, there were one or two challenges to his previous withdrawal agreement bill that definitely haven't been passed in October, he concluded. The bit about safe passage for children of refugees had needed to be canned, not because he had anything against children, mind, rather because it was always useful to keep them as bargaining chips. It's what the kiddies would have wanted. The same for workers, food and environmental rights. Far too important to be left aligned with the EU when there was chances of watering them down for a US trade deal. And as for the guaranteed end to the transition period that made a no-deal Brexit a real possibility at the end of the year, everyone deserved the chance to be poorer. And we were in a new space and time continuum when up was down and down was up. And there wasn't a damn thing anyone in the Commons could say to change that. Not that many were minded to do so, as they were all too busy drinking the Kool-Aid. It was a debate characterised mostly by absence, an absence of thought and of the absence of personnel. All the true One Nation Tory MPs who used to oppose the flaws in Boris's Brexit have been eased from the Commons. And as Johnson now goes unchallenged, so he appears at best only half interested in his own arguments, having long since taken for granted that that he would win. He looked like a man who was phoning it in, and could scarcely be bothered to even acknowledge the concerns of the Scottish Nationalist Party, the Norwich and the Northern Irish MPs. It now feels like almost inevitability that the Union will break up at some point in the next 10 years. Jeremy Corbyn was also operating on low power mode. He has been ever since the election. But this time he had an excuse, because there was literally nothing he could say to make a difference. There were fairly desperating speeches from Labour's Hilary Benn, Matthew Peacock and Keir Starmer, but the Tory benches were almost a total IQ-free zone, as Owen Prescott, Mark Francois and Liam Fox were only too happy to prove, since they are too stupid to remember that this is what a Brexit deal to which they have all been too vehemently opposed for more than 3 years. But to the victors the spoils and the amnesia. Boris stood triumphant, surrounded by sycophants and crowned in laurels. He was Caesar, the autocrat, disguised as a man of the people, whose prescription of a blue-collar conservatism was old-fashioned establishment paternalism. Brexit was done, even if it wasn't, and anyone who dared whisper the word Brexit again after January 31st would be arrested for thought crimes. Boris had hoped that he would feel more elated than this, but instead he could only feel disappointment closing in. He had gained the world, but he had long since lost both his family and his soul. His narcissism would inevitably destroy him. In the beginning, In the beginning is my end. Now the light falls. And yeah, that's entirely true. So funny how all these Conservatives who suddenly opposed Brexit have somehow now decided to support the bill, even though, again, as Boris Johnson has said, it's nowhere near good as the Theresa May's deal is that her Brexit withdrawal bill was far better than his own. But of course, everyone suddenly has collective amnesia now, and the people who were once dead set against this bill are now suddenly quite happy to support it. Again, people who should definitely, as you can tell, this is the big fear, that now the Conservatives have the power to do exactly what they want. Workers' rights, food protections, environmental safety, all can be quietly washed away to make way for a US trade deal, which will do nothing for our country in the long run because it won't offset us leaving the EU. We are going to be economically poorer, and as cited there, probably sometime in the next 10 years, the union's probably going to break up. And that's what Boris Johnson is going to be known for. The Prime Minister who got Brexit done, but at what cost? The country that he got elected to lead.